Because Lance's hand was seriously injured, he couldn't use his strength. Lance had to twist his left hand and start the car, but even then, Lance could only hug the steering wheel and get out of the car as the engine did not start. He walked helplessly along the roadside. Then his eyes were attracted. There was a dog across the road, a living dog. Lance was overjoyed and called the dog to come to him. The dog didn't pay attention but ran forward. Lance was sad. The dog didn't want to be with him, so Lance continued to walk alone with his sadness. Lance turned a corner and found a supermarket. He hesitantly approached the supermarket door. The door opened automatically. He thanked the supermarket's sensors. Lance entered the supermarket. Stunning products were neatly displayed on every shelf, and there was no one or zombies inside. Lance felt relieved. He pushed the shopping cart and walked around the supermarket. He picked up a lot of food. He put the food on the counter. He went back to the shelves to find a knife. He wanted to open a can of meat. After Lance got the tool to open the can, he heard the sound of the supermarket door opening. Lance quickly hid at the end of the shelf. Then he carefully peeked at the person who came. It was a zombie. It was the zombie that had been chasing Lance. Lance circled around the shelf to avoid the zombie. The zombie soon found Lance's trace. He ran towards him. Lance ran out through the safety passage. The zombie still followed him closely. The two chased each other again. Lance is very agile despite his chubby body. He dodged the zombie around the bus. He also took the opportunity to climb on top of the yellow bus. The zombie didn't know how to climb up. He tried around the bus. The zombie couldn't climb up. Lance relaxed. He lay down on the roof. He looked up at the sky and began to close his eyes. A while passed. When he came back to his senses, the zombie's howl seemed to be gone. Lance carefully checked both sides of his feet. He didn't see the zombie's trace. He slowly crawled to the back of the bus. Well, the zombie didn't leave but stayed at the rear of the car. Lance hesitated for a while and decided to get off the bus and run away from the front. Then he moved lightly and slowly got off the bus from the front. The noise of his landing was accidentally too loud and made a sound. The zombie behind him rushed over. Lance hurriedly climbed back on the roof. This time, the zombie learned Lance's movements and also climbed on the roof. Seeing that the zombie was about to knock Lance down, Lance quickly jumped onto the RV next to the bus. The heavy Lance smashed the roof of the RV and fell in. He fell and hurt all over. Lance trembled and stood up. He opened the door of the RV and prepared to go out. Who knew? The zombie was outside. In a moment of panic, Lance burst out with a strong desire to survive. He jumped out of the broken window at the back of the car. He avoided the door. The zombie rushed onto the car. He chased Lance and also jumped out of the window. He continued to chase Lance relentlessly. Lance started to flee again. He turned out of the parking lot from the broken wire fence. He ran into a fire station. To prevent the zombie from breaking in, Lance took the cabinets next to him and blocked the door. The zombie didn't seem to come. Lance walked into the warehouse. The warehouse was full of fire equipment and fire trucks. Although the door was blocked by Lance, the shutter of the main door was not pulled down. It left a gap that a person could crawl through. Lance wanted to pull it up. The zombie's figure appeared outside the door. The zombie who lost his target was wandering outside the door. Lance quickly made up his mind. He ran to the back of the fire truck. The zombie's in front of him. He pounded the shutter door hard. Lance moved to the passenger seat along the car body. Through the window, he saw the zombie that had come in. He looked around for Lance's trace. Seeing the zombie that had come in, Lance had no strength to have another chase. He ran to the office area on the side with his hands and feet. He bent over and walked over. He tried several office doors and they couldn't be opened. The last door was not locked. He quickly opened it. Lance squeezed into the room in a flash. The way out of the room was locked. At this time, the zombie's roar in the warehouse made Lance's heart tremble. Lance looked around and found a big axe on the wall. He took the axe. Then he had to fight for his life if he couldn't get rid of it. Lance ran back to the warehouse and hid in the dark. He prepared to attack the zombie from behind. But when Lance shouted and was about to do it, the axe head was caught in the iron net behind him. The zombie was attracted by Lance's loud voice and turned his head. He saw Lance coming. Lance had to run away. He turned out through the gap of the shutter door. The zombie grabbed his foot. He kicked his leg and got rid of the zombie. The two chased each other again. Lance ran to the street. There was a figure next to a car. Lance hurriedly called for help. The person didn't react. Lance had to change his way and ran into a bookstore. He rolled and crawled into the bookstore. He hid under a table. Quickly, at the door, a man appeared and finished off the zombie. Lance was careful. Lance walked with a bow. "Thank you" was the last sentence the man heard before he died from being hit. The atmosphere in the restaurant was very heavy. The two groups of people who gathered for the car accident had no communication. The baseball cap man Manny opened the blinds by the window. The woman Carmen sitting opposite him joked. The baseball cap man boasted that he was not afraid of zombies. When the two were talking, the zombie suddenly leaned on the window. It scared Manny half to death. He jumped up from his seat. Carmen on the other side was also scared. He hurriedly closed the blinds. William in the restaurant was annoyed by Manny's stupid move and cursed. Manny, who had just been sworn at to his face, did not take it well. He picked up a table knife and yelled at William. William couldn't stand Manny's arrogance. He got up and wanted to teach him a lesson. Fortunately, Son and Carmen stopped him. They sat down again. They were very angry with William's recklessness. They shouldn't make enemies at this time. William apologized for his emotional outburst. Then the door of the back kitchen was pushed open. Manny, Carmen, and another survivor from the same car, Phil, walked in with a smile and a pile of cans. They thought they were lucky to find this place. Not only was there enough food, but there were also a lot of people. They knew there were 5 people in the restaurant. There were only 2 zombies outside. When Phil said that, William immediately retorted, "The 5 people who came in were not with him." Phil tried to calm William down, but William didn't forget. It was because of their truck that his car crashed and caused this mess. Phil explained that it was all Marvin, the driver, who did it. He said they should blame Marvin, but now that things have happened, it's pointless to blame each other. The important thing is to get out. William didn't buy his nonsense, but Phil didn't give up. He invited William to talk alone. They went to the back room. Then he persuaded William to cooperate with him. He said they were the most valuable people in this group. William agreed. But Phil dropped a bombshell. He said the government had already taken over. He said they had to do something necessary. Then Phil suggested that they should kill the others and take their food. William asked him if he was crazy. William was shaken, but he didn't give up on Son. Phil knew it was no use to talk more. He asked William to go to the city center with him to get weapons. He said they could find a way out there. On the other side, Son sat alone in the front hall of the restaurant. Carmen sat down and talked to Son. They said they had smuggled over. They couldn't get on the rescue truck without government documents. They fell into this trap. The same experience brought the 2 women closer. They were no longer so resistant and wary. They continued to chat. Carmen told Son about the zombie nests she had seen. Manny also came over. He told Son that the zombie nest was getting closer. He said they had to leave as soon as possible. He said if they wanted to reach the stadium, they had to go through the zombie-infested area. He said this required weapons. Manny invited Son to join them. The 5 people with different intentions got along peacefully for a while. Phil secretly had a big plan. He first went to the door and watched for a while. The zombie Marvin noticed him right away. He pressed against the glass door. Phil pretended to be very scared. William walked to the door and quietly observed. He suggested that they should cooperate and kill the zombies. Phil immediately agreed. He said they could do 2 versus 1 and 3 versus 1. He said they also needed a plan. Manny also agreed to join. He asked Phil how to do it. They decided to distract the zombies' attention first and then launch a surprise attack. They searched for a while and each took a handy weapon. William volunteered to go out and attack the zombies. Then Phil, Carmen, and Manny also expressed their willingness to go out and fight the zombies. There was only one problem left. Who would be responsible for distracting the zombies? They turned their eyes to Son, who was in the restaurant.